Hold on, y'all. Mm. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, 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 y'all. Hey, let me know. Hey, y'all. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. So, can everybody hear me on the mic? Good. Can everybody hear me on the mic? Please let me know. Let me know before we get started. Let me know. Hey, y'all. Hey, hey, hey. Yep, it will. Uh-huh. It'll be up. It will be up. It will be up. And then this one is good too because I get to share my screen. Y'all get to see what I'm looking at in real time. So, child, I'm gonna try to. Hey y'all, hey, hey, hey. Hola, 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 hola. I'm trying to see. I'm gonna try to give some more people time to get in here. I can't go live on TikTok. That would have made this so much easier. Would have made this so much easier. So much easier. Would have made this so much easier. Or I'm wondering, I could go live on Instagram, but I don't know if I want to do that. Don't know if I want to do that. Like, yeah, don't know if I want to do that. Mhm. Child, I wish the other page had at least 1,000 followers because I could go live over there. How many? Yeah, it's only got yeah, it's not gonna let me go live. It's not gonna let me go live. I do not want to see who viewed my page. Um, let's see. Yeah, 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 I'm trying to get people on a little bit. Would y'all prefer for me to do it on Instagram or y'all prefer YouTube? Let me know which you prefer. Let me know which you prefer. Cause damn, I hate I can't go live. Like, damn. Hate I can't go live. Um, but lesson learned. That's why it's best to have multiple pages. Uh, it's best to have multiple pages. Y'all prefer YouTube? Yeah, cause I'm trying. I might go live. Let me see. Let me see how many people. I'm gonna see what is what is given. Child. What is given? Can I go live on this? Y'all prefer YouTube? Okay. Trying to give people a little bit more time to get in here. 'Cause I know I said an hour, but me and Nene, we were supposed to record the podcast tonight, but we gonna do it tomorrow because she got to work late. I appreciate it. I might. That's what I'm saying. I I'ma see. I'm turning Instagram on just to see what it does, what it like what happened, what it would happen, and we'll go from there to see what was it. Mm-mm. All right, so let me pull up Inner City Press. Ah, damn. Let me see. Hold on, Inner City Press. Don't fail me now. Don't fail me now. Don't fail me now. Okay, y'all, hold on. Now, Capricorn Clark they say she got up there and spilled all the tea. So we're about to see 5 days. Okay, we're gonna have to get to all this. Oh, we're gonna have to get to all of this. Did he delete it? Why did he delete it? 5 hours, 6. Okay, cool. All right, hold on, y'all. Yeah, I know. Ain't nobody on IG, so they coming in. Yeah, yeah, ain't nobody on IG, so I'm gonna get off Instagram. Discard. Okay. Let me see. I'm pulling up the transcript from Inner City Press, y'all. I'm just trying to find. And Inner City Press pulled the judicial documents that apparently were not slated to go public without precedent. Uh, Inner City Press filed the application that it must be docketed. Oh goodness. All right. So for those who are just coming in, pull it. Yep. Hey y'all. Hey. For those who are just coming in, this is day 10 of the Diddy trial. Let me see. So let me ask this then. Do y'all want me to just wait to unpack everything when I'm able to go back live? Cause I'm a little nervous to go back live on this main page. Cause I got a strike on that page because of the last live. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure this out. Cause like I want people to follow on YouTube that which makes a lot more sense. It's less strenuous in terms of yeah. So okay. All right, so we gonna unpack. Let me see. We gonna unpack. Yeah, y'all, the algorithm. Yeah, like it's yeah. Ain't nobody in here. I was like, but except y'all, which I appreciate y'all. So I guess we'll just go over and just allow people to come in. And then I'll still do a recap on Friday when I'm able to get my live back. I'll do a recap. So um yeah, like I posted it over um the video letting people know like, hey, I'm actually about to go live. Like maybe 30 minutes ago. It's only got like 300 views, which is not normal. So I don't know what they got. I appreciate that. Yeah. I've been waiting all weekend for this. All right, let's run it. All right, so for those who don't know where we're actually pulling this information from, this is because obviously, if you're unaware, there are no there's no media inside the courtroom. There's journalists. So you have journalists from CNN, you have the Washington Post, New York Times, all of those journalists are actually inside of the courtroom. So that's where we're, getting this information from. I'm using Inner City Press, which is on Twitter. Inner City Press is the journalist, is one of the journalists inside the courtroom. He does amazing work. That's who we've been using for the past 2.5 weeks now. So we're gonna go all the way back from this morning. And this is U.S. versus Combs, day 10, starting on the rulers of testimony of Capricorn Clark, which is his old assistant, the DNA in Kid Cudi's burnt car. Excuse me, investigator Jimenez. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. So we got Capricorn Clark, former assistant. DNA is what they're going to be covering in regards to what happened, the DNA they recovered from Kid Cudi's car, and then an investigator is going to be taking the stand. So let's start from this morning. Now, let me pull it. Yeah. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. It's YouTube is easier because I'm able to see y'all in real time and see the comments. I would have loved for people to, that I would have loved for people to hop on Instagram. That would have made it easier. But YouTube, the community guidelines are a lot, a little bit more lenient, so we can kind of talk our shit for real. So, but day 10, and y'all might want to get your snacks and your stuff because this one apparently it was a ride today in the courtroom. Um, let me see. All right, let's run it. Now, Judge, he comes in this morning and says, I see you burnt the midnight oil over the weekend. And what about the DNA question? So apparently, DNA evidence, as mentioned regarding Kid Cudi's car, has been entered. Investigator Jimenez, knowledge of his external is, I'm sorry, prosecution says this. Investigator Jimenez's knowledge of his is extremely limited. Judge asks, but he didn't ask for a serologist if any DNA test was done. Hold on. Serologist. Let me see. Let me see what a serologist is, child. Oh, serology is the study of bodily fluids. So they had to call a serologist in. What bodily fluids did they find? The fuck? What bodily fluids did they find where they had to call a serologist? Girl, that's got me nervous, girl. Bodily fluids? Oh, hell. All right, we gonna keep rolling. And oof. Da, 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 da. Okay, judges then asked, but then he asked a serologist if any DNA test was done. Prosecution says, but not the results. Prosecution says, yes, there was a partial profile from the glass bottle in the car, but investigator Jimenez does not know what that means. But their judge then then intercedes and says, you don't object to the report coming in only what Mr. Argilofino, which is Diddy's attorney, will ask. Prosecution says we do object to that report coming in. Combs, which is Diddy's defense attorney, states that he got the results back. If the DNA came back with Sean Combs' DNA, this investigator would have gone in a different direction. But if it was consistent with the I'm sorry, but it states here, or he states here, it was consistent with the female contributor. Judge says so. It's not whether the result was accurate, only the impact. Judge says I'm going to overrule the objection, but I'll hear you at sidebar after the direct. Prosecution says this DNA issue can mislead the jury. Diddy's defense says we could prove this up through a serologist. This is a fair game for this witness. Judge says for now the objection is overruled. Judge then asks, what about the summary charts? When are they being offered? Prosecution says some early next week, others along with our second to last witness before we rest our case. Judge says bringing in the bank and phone records and text is okay, but some text threads are already in. Prosecution says the summary charts will save time as they did in the Menendez case. Judge then says that leaves us with the objection to Dr. Hughes. Now, if you don't remember Dr. Dawn Hughes, we unpacked her last week. She's the psychologist that everybody seems to have an issue with. Which, you know, she's appeared in multiple court cases. One prominent one is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. She appeared on the court cases, and she just provided an expert witness in terms of how victims react in the nature of abuse. So that's, you know, what that is. But they're objecting to Dr. Hughes. Judge asked, that leaves us with the objection to Dr. Hughes. Is the U.S. going to respond? Prosecution says yes. He asked that the prosecution of the U.S. government submit their response by tomorrow, you know, which is tomorrow. All right. Judge then says, now mind you, I do want to make a preference here. This is all before the jury enters the room this morning. They just having back and forth conversation. Jury has not entered the room yet. Jury is now entering in this next part. So jury enters. Judge says, welcome back. Call your next witness. Now, let me see. Let me see. What we finna do? Alrighty, so jury is entering. Judge says, call your next witness. U.S. government calls Capricorn Clark. Prosecution then asks, where did you grow up? Capricorn Clark says, born in San Francisco, moved to L.A., worked for Def Jam, then Death Row in a late 90s gangster rap label. Prosecution then asks, what was your relation to Suge Knight? Why he asked about shit? Why is that the first question? Why is that? Okay, cool. You work for a gangster rap label. How you know Suge Knight? Like, damn. Okay, Capricorn Clark says he's the father of my friend's child. Who's the friend? You talking about Michelle? Girl, okay. Prosecution then asks, then you work for Sean Combs? Capricorn Clark says yes. He's over there in the blue sweater. I worked for him from 2004 to 2012. Prosecution asks, were you kidnapped? What? She says yes. Prosecution then asks, where did you meet Mr. Combs? Capricorn Clark says, when I moved to New York in 2002, we were super platonic friends. A headhunter said I should work for him as a personal assistant. I did until 2006. Capricorn Clark says, shadow him prosecution then asks, what were your duties? Capricorn Clark says, shadow him from wake up. What the fuck? Girl. Prosecution asked, did you work in this building? They show her a photo of Bad Boy Records. Capricorn Clark says, yes, we moved back there in 2005. Prosecution asked, your first day, where did Mr. Combs take you? Prosecution then asked, where did Mr. Combs take you? Capricorn Clark says Central Park after dark. That sound horrible. Along with Uncle Paulie. He looked like a linebacker. Excuse me? Girl. Prosecution then asks, does this photo look like him? So they're showing her a photo on the stand while she's there. Capricorn Clark says, no, he doesn't have on the blackout shades he wore all the time. Prosecution then asks, What did Mr. Combs tell you in that part? Capricorn Clark said that since I work for Suge Knight, if anything happened, he might have to unalive me. And then obviously Diddy's defense attorney yells objection, like they always do. Judge says overruled. Judge said, hell no, I want to see this. I want to hear this. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is just this morning. We're not even an hour in. Child. Alrighty, so after the objection and the judge overrules it, judge wants to hear it. Prosecution then asks, how did you take it? Capricorn Clark says, seriously, it had gravitas. Oh, gosh. Prosecution asks, how did you react? Capricorn Clark says, I didn't have anything to do with that stuff. His team then yells objection again. Judge says sustain, Miss Steiner. And the reason he's saying that, she has to answer the questions that are being asked. Don't give no fluff. Don't just answer the questions directly. Prosecution asks, what was Paulie's role? Capricorn Clark says, all respect of Mr. Combs, all aspects of Mr. Combs' movements to keep him safe. There was also D-Rock, Roger Bonds, and Ruben. Prosecution then asks again, who's D-Rock? Capricorn Clark says, a good friend of Biggie Smalls, running back type of body. Why she keep talking about these man body? Like, Capricorn, what the hell you got going on? Like, why? No, it wasn't Anna objecting, not this time. Like, not this time. That was it doesn't say which which attorney objected from his side. It just yells, is the transcript just says objection. We don't, it could be Anna, but then again, his whole team love objecting to shit. So who knows? But they ask who D-Rock is. She says it's Biggie Smalls' friend, running back type of body. Prosecution then asks, did you ever observe Mr. Combs with a weapon? Capricorn Clark says, yes, in my home. Child. Prosecution asks, and did he talk about it? Capricorn Clark then says, Mr. Combs, told Chris Lighty that he had a pum. He had a problem with 50 Cent. That's the wrong person to have a problem with. Like, that's the wrong person. Who? A predictor to what did I predict? Oh Lord. That's the wrong person to have a problem with. Let me see. Yeah, it's just like, girl, that's literally in the court transcript. She keeps saying, oh, he was built like a linebacker. Why we need to know that? But hey, she telling her testimony. Prosecution then asked, and did he talk about it? Capricorn Clark says Mr. Combs told Chris Lighty he had a weapon. He had a problem with 50 Cent. Prosecution then asked, were you ever accused of stealing? CC, we're just gonna call her CC. CC says yes, jury, it had been given to me. It was on a loan. Prosecution asks, it went missing. CC says yes. Prosecution asks, what did you do? Capricorn Clark said, from Terraboro, I called 1440 and told them to lock it down. Prosecution asked, what did Uncle Paulie do? CC said he questioned me for 3 hours regarding some stolen jewelry. Prosecution asks, you went home? CC says to Queens with Uncle Paulie. He searched my house. For some jewelry? Girl, for some jewelry. For some jewelry. Prosecution asks, where did Uncle Paulie take you? Capricorn Clark says 1710 Broadway. It was debilitated. It was being fixed up, but I didn't know that. Uncle Paulie took me to the 6th floor. The door was locked behind us. There was a 6-foot folding table and a heavy set man. Girl! Prosecution asks, can you describe him? Capricorn, 5 of me. 2 linebackers. Capricorn, what is with you and this linebacker? She keep calling these men linebackers. They must have been some big ass dudes. Cause like what? She said, yes, 5 of me, 2 linebackers. He was chain smoking. Prosecution asked, did Uncle Paulie stay? Cece says no. Intermittently, he came back. Prosecution then asked, what did the heavy set man say? Cece said, I was there to take a lie detector test. Prosecution asked, what did he say would happen if you failed the lie detector test? Capricorn, Cece says that they would throw me in the East River. And then Diddy's defense attorney says, objection, can we have a sidebar? I bet the hell you will have a sidebar. I bet you will have a sidebar. That is crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, and now Chris Lighty, yeah, Chris, I think we unpacked Chris ended up passing in 2012. They say it was self-inflicted, but he was really, really good friends with Buster Rhymes. Buster said in the interview when he was on Drink Champs with Nori, he and Chris Lighty's family, I think, actually paid for forensic science or a forensics team to actually go in there and actually see if what they say happened. I don't think that's what happened. Yeah, I don't think that's what happened. But yeah, Cece said if she failed the lie detector test, they were gonna throw her in the East River. That is crazy. Over some jewelry. Judge, they then come back from the sidebar. Judge then asks Miss Steiner or says, Miss Steiner, you can proceed. Prosecution asks, what was his demeanor? Capricorn Clark says, very serious. I was terrified. Prosecution then asked, did you want to be taking the test? Cece said, no, I was afraid. Prosecution said, how was the test? Cece says, wires on you and they're asking you and they question you, did I steal? Prosecution asked, did he tell you the results? Cece said he said to calm down, that he couldn't get a good read and he might have to throw me in the East River. What is with him in this East River shit? Like, who he think he is? Tony Montana? Like he a part of the mob. Like, is he crazy? Like, girl. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. Uh Prosecution asked, anyone else in the building? Cece says, not to my knowledge. Prosecution then asked, could you leave? Cece says, no. Paul said no. Prosecution asked, what did Paul say at the end? Cece said that he'd come back the next day to figure this out. We started again, another lie detector test in the same location all day. Prosecution asked, were you free to leave? She said, no. She said, prosecution asked, how long did this go on? Cece said 5 days. Prosecution asked, did you tell anyone where you went? Capricorn Clark says, no, I was just trying to survive it. I worked under NDA. Diddy's defense attorney then objects again. Judge says sustain. And then judge sustains the objection and says jury should disregard that last answer. Prosecution asked, what would you have been doing? Capricorn Clark says shadowing Mr. Combs. Prosecution asked, what happened after 5 days? Prosecution asks, prosecution asks what happened after 5 days. Capricorn Clark says that I could return to work, that Mr. Combs would see me next week. They asked, prosecution then asked, did Mr. Combs ever discuss it with you? Cece says no. Prosecution asked, why did you continue to work with Mr. Combs, which is valid? Cece said, if I left, they'd think I stole. Prosecution asked, what were your days like? Cece says, from his townhouse at 74th Street in Park in the morning to Daddy's house studio at night. Ugh. Why he call himself Dad? Okay. Prosecution asked, how much sleep did you get? She said, on a good day, 4 hours. On a bad day, 2. I had got a stress condition. Oh, no. I was paid $55,000. Oh, no. Prosecution asked, did you get paid overtime? Capricorn Clark says, no. I spoke to the head of HR. She said I was owed $80,000. Prosecution asks, how did Mr. Combs respond? Cece said he ripped up the paper. Oh, wow. Prosecution then asks, would Mr. Combs stay at hotels? Cece says yes. Prosecution asked with whom? She said with Kim Porter once a week. Prosecution asked what were the names he would book the room under. Cece says Frank Black or Frank White, which is on brand. Prosecution asked, and the girlfriends? Jackie Star? Oh, wow. That's crazy. Prosecution then asked, where did he stay? Cece said Intercontinental Buckhead in Atlanta, Beverly Hills Hotel in LA. Wow. What were in his bags? Prosecution asked. Capricorn Clock says a camera, small bottles of baby oil, and lube. Cameras every time. Child. That is crazy. Prosecution asks, how would Mr. Clark stay in a hotel with Cassandra Ventura in 2008? I'm sorry. Prosecution asked, how frequently would Mr. Combs stay in a hotel with Cassandra Ventura in 2008? Cece said, like once a week at La Hermitage, the London Intercontinental for several days with IV drips. Prosecution then asked, did he speak with you about his relationship with Ms. Ventura? Prosecution, Cece, I'm sorry, not the prosecution. Cece then says, yes, Miss London was there, Chef Jordan in the other room. He called Cassie over, asked her to walk there, hand me that, go back in the other room, and she did it. This is not funny because this shows how sick he is. Prosecution asked, what did he say? Cece said, he said, you bitches won't do that. That's why you won't have a man. Talking about Cassie walking to him, handing him whatever he wants, and then going back in the room. Basically, following orders is why they don't have a man, is what he allegedly said. Girl. I I just mm-mm. That's crazy. That's crazy. Alrighty. Prosecution then asks, what did you say? Capricorn Clark says, you're motherfucking right. Capricorn Clark say, yeah, I'll be single if I gotta do that shit. Listen. Prosecution asked, did you observe Mr. Combs obtain candy? We're gonna call the stuff he be using candy. Cece says a girlfriend in NY in LA from One Stop, Molly ecstasy delivered to Puff or to me. Prosecution asked, did he ask you to ever get candy for him? She says, yes, X. Excuse me. Prosecution asked, and in the south of France, Cece said he asked me to get cocaine. I said, for who? Prosecution asked, why? Cece said I wasn't going to do it given how her mother passed. Diddy's attorney then does another sidebar. He objects and then he or she objects. And then does another sidebar. They come back for the sidebar. Prosecution asks, who did Mr. Combs say the candy was for? Capricorn Clark says he said not me. Prosecution asked, did you get him? Cece said yes, through the Spanish security guard. He also got prescription candy in my name. They were in the toiletry bag I carry or security. Prosecution asked, what about the bulk cash? Cece says yes, 100,000 euro coming back from Europe. He said, prosecution asked, where'd he get it? Cece says club bookings in Europe. He keep it, then give it to security, then into the bedroom, into his personal safe. Prosecution asked, was there any violence? Cece said fighting. Prosecution asked, was Mr. Combs violent with you? She says yes. At Star Island, he told me you are not to leave this house. Pharrell Williams was brought in by boat. Not Pharrell. I what the hell is happening? I not Pharrell. Pharrell was brought in by boat. I returned Mr. Walker to Palm Island. He said, "Where the fuck are you? You can't have a life." Wow. Cece then says, "One time I asked the chef if there was any turkey bacon. She said, no fucking turkey bacon. I said, I hate it here. The chef told Mr. Combs and he pushed me again and again. Over some turkey bacon? Oh, this man crazy. This man crazy. This man crazy. This man is crazy. Literally crazy. This man is crazy. Um, mm-mm. Okay, so prosecution asks, was Mr. Combs ever violent with you? Once again, CC Capricorn Clark says, yes, at Star Island. He told me, you're not gonna leave this house. Pharrell Williams was brought in by boat. I returned Mr. Walker to Palm Island. He said, where the fuck are you? You can't have a life. Capricorn Clark says, one time I asked the chef if there was any turkey bacon, and she said, no fucking turkey bacon. I said, I hate it here. The chef told Mr. Combs, and he pushed me again and again over some fucking turkey bacon. Prosecution asked, what did he say? CC Capricorn Clark says, he said, if you hate it here, get the fuck out of here. Prosecution then asked, did you leave your employment? Capricorn Clark says, I did. Prosecution then asked, but you returned? CC says, as a global brand director. Prosecution asked, why? CC said he was impressed by what I did on the job. I left a couple albums. He said, you wouldn't have to work directly for me. Child, this man crazy. This man crazy. This man crazy. Alrighty. Prosecution then asked, what were you doing for Miss Ventura? Capricorn Clark says, managing her image, maximizing optics for her. For Sean Combs, he had final approval on everything. Prosecution then asked, in LA, where did you live? She said, the gated community. We had followed Kim Porter there. Prosecution asked, where was Miss Ventura? She says, in NY on West End. She would come to LA and stay with him or me or in a hotel. Prosecution asked, who else was Miss Ventura seeing? She said, Miss Cuddy. Um, Prosecution then asked, how'd you learn that? Cece says she brought him to my apartment. Prosecution then asked, what did she say? Prosecution says she texted me they were going to this public place in LA. I told her it was a bad idea and to delete the text. Prosecution says or asks why. Cece said, if Mr. Combs learned about Kid Cudi, I mean, Mr. Combs paid for my phone and hers. Damn. Prosecution then asks, I'm sorry. CC says, I took Cassie to Best Buy to get a burner phone. Prosecution asks, when did Mr. Combs return to town? CC says, not long after he took Cassie to the hotel, the Caprini. Prosecution then asks, and then CC says, December 22nd, 2011, between 5:30 and 6 a.m., there was banging at my door. Prosecution asks, what did you see through the peephole? Capricorn Clark says, a furious puff. And then Diddy's team objects. Judge says, ask another question. And prosecution asks, what was his movement? Prosecution asks, pacing with something. I'm sorry. CC then says he was pacing with something in his hand on the other side of the door. Prosecution asks, did you open the door? CC says, I did. Why would you open the door? Prosecution asks, what was he wearing? CC says, a button-down sweater, torn pants, and he was holding a pum pum. He came into my apartment and said, why didn't you tell me? Who's Scott? I said, I don't know any Scott. Prosecution says, what did he say? CC said that he was going to kill this N-word. Prosecution asked, where was the weapon? CC said, in his hand. I said, I didn't want to go. He said, I don't give a fuck what you want. Get dressed. Damn. Prosecution asked, what concerns did you have? CC, he'd never come to my house. Prosecution says, did you try to escape? CC says, no, I got dressed. Prosecution asks who joined in. CC says Ruben in the black Escalade executive class. Prosecution then asks who is Ruben. CC says driver's seat. I got in the back. I'm sorry. Prosecution asks where was Ruben. Prosecution then lays the groundwork, and CC then says driver's seat. I got in the back seat, right hand side. Mr. Combs was in the left next to me. Usually he would have sat in the front. The weapon was in his lap. That is crazy. Prosecution then asks, how long did it take you to drive from your home? How long did it take the drive from your home at the time to Cuddy's house in Hollywood Hills? CC says if you push it, 15 to 20 minutes. Prosecution then asks, what did Mr. Combs and Rube do to Cuddy's house? CC says they went in. Prosecution says, could you see it? CC says yes. Prosecution then asks, what did you do? CC said, I called Cassie on her burner. I said, Cassie, where the fuck? I told her Puff was at Cuddy's house. Then I changed her number in my phone to best friend Stormy. That is crazy. Prosecution then asks, what did you hear on the phone? CC says that Scott was at Cassie's. Prosecution then asks, when did Mr. Combs come back? CC says he took my phone and called the last number. Then I saw Cuddy driving up. Combs saw my face and said, that's that end right there. CC says we drove off and saw the police driving the other way toward Cuddy's. Puff was pulling himself together. We stopped at the Key Club and he told me to call Cassie. Prosecution says, what did he tell you to tell Cassie? CC says that he had me and wouldn't let me go. Prosecution then asks, how did Ms. Ventura respond? CC says she said, okay, come get me. She was calm. Prosecution asks, who drove you home? CC said Ruben. Prosecution then asks, what did Mr. Combs tell you? CC said to convince Cuddy not to say that it had been him in his house. I picked Cassie up. Prosecution then asks, where did you go? CC says she went to Cuddy's and tried to convince him not to file a police report. CC says, prosecution asks, what did you tell them? CC says that Puff came to my house with a weapon. Prosecution then asks, what did you tell them he said? CC says, if you tell on him, he'll hurt us all. That is crazy. Prosecution asks, what was Cuddy's reaction? CC, mind blown. Diddy's defense attorney says objection. All right. Child. Hey. Hold on, y'all. Child. All right. I thought, yeah, literally. Alrighty. So they asked what was what was Cuddy's reaction? Mind blown. They do an objection, or judge does an objection, and judge says sustain, meaning the jury will disregard their last statement. Prosecution says what happened at the house. He was kicking Cassie again and again. Oh. Oof. And this is a trigger warning here, guys. Prosecution asks, how was Cassie? Cece says in a fetal position. Mr. Combs kicked her all the way to the street. She was crying silently. Prosecution asks, where was he kicking her? In her backside. Prosecution asks, where were you? She said about 5 feet away. So was Rude. Um, That is crazy. Combe and prosecution then asked, "What did Combs say to you?" Cece said, "He said if you jump in, I'm going to F you up." Prosecution then asked, "What did Rube do?" Cece said nothing. Prosecution then asked, "How did you call or who did you call?" Cece says, "D-Rock. I told him tell your brother to stop Puff. He's kicking the shit out of her." Cece says, "I called Paulie too. He said he'd take care of it, but Rube did nothing." Prosecution then asked, "What happened next?" CC then says, "Mr. Combs told me to get the fuck out too. I left on foot." Prosecution asked, could you still see her getting kicked?" CC says, "Until I went around the bend." Prosecution then asked, "Who did you call?" Regina Ventura. "I told her he's kicking the shit out of your daughter. I can't call the police, but you can." Prosecution asked, "Why didn't you call the police?" CC says, "The mission of the day was to get Cuddy, so no calling the police." Prosecution then shows an email and asks, "Who is this from?" Cece says, "Cassie." She wrote that he would be releasing sex tapes about me, and he would have someone else hurt me and Scott. Do you recall if you responded to this? Cece says, "I don't." Prosecution asks, "Did law enforcement call you?" Cece says, "The arson investigators. Cuddy had given them my name. I hung up on them. I just wanted this over." Prosecution then asks, "What did Mr. Combs say to you?" He said, "I should unalive you bees. I should cut her face." Prosecution then asked, "How many times did Mr. Combs threaten you?" Cece said, "I'd say 50 times. D-Rock was there, just doubling down on whatever Puff was saying in the moment." Oh, goodness. Prosecution then asked, "Who is Harvey Pierre?" "The president of Bad Boy Records. I told him Puff had kidnapped me." Prosecution then asked, "What did Harvey P.L. tell you?" Cece says, "He said that's crazy, but it's going to be okay. I got a termination notice. I was accused on not properly putting in the vacation I was on." Prosecution then asked, "Had you put it in?" She said, "Yes, to Harv Pierre." "Did you lose benefits?" "All of them. Health, 401k, my house, my car." That's fucked up. And that's exactly why he getting the karma that he getting. Like, cause all that shit he's done to people and the evilness is coming back for him. Karma don't miss and God don't play. Prosecution then asked, "Did you get a job offer?" She said, "I did, but it fell through. I couldn't get a job." "Did you settle with Mr. Combs?" Cece says in October 12th for, and then Diddy's team approaches. Child. They come back from the sidebar. Aside from the settlement agreement, do you have any other pending litigation against him? Cece says no. Prosecution then asks, "Did you go back to work for him?" "In 2016, no one else would hire me. Cassie had a new record deal with Epic." That is crazy. "Who did you have to get approvals from?" Capricorn says Sean Combs. Cassie was taking more candy. "She was still dating Mr. Combs?" Prosecution asks. Cece says yes. Prosecution then asks in 2023, "Why did you retain an attorney?" Prosecution says, "I was traumatized by Cassie's civil complaint." Capricorn Clark says her complaint did not reference me. "I reached out to Mr. Combs and said, I want my life back. You kidnapped me." And then Diddy's defense says objection. Judge says overruled. I want to hear this. Prosecution asks, "Was there discussion of you working for Mr. Combs again?" Cece says yes, as chief of staff. Prosecution asks, "When did you last speak with Ms. Ventura?" She says in 2018. "And Mr. Muscati?" Capricorn says in 2012. No further questions. Then they go on a break. And then Diddy's attorney says, "Can I start?" The judge says, "Well, we'll take a break." Oh damn. Now they're doing cross. Um, Judge says, "Miss Clark, you are still under oath." Diddy's defense asks, or Diddy's defense says, "We met in April 2024. You had an attorney, Brian Friedman." Cece says yes. Diddy's attorney says, "You wanted to come back and work with Mr. Combs, right?" Cece says, "We discussed it, yes." Oh damn. Diddy's attorney says, "You saw Miss Geragos take notes." Cece says yes. Diddy's defense says, "You said you didn't think Cassie was good for Mr. Combs. Why?" Cece says, "I just thought they were toxic." Ah, Diddy's defense says, tell me about when you were in New York. Cece says, I was in the Bronx. I hated it. Cece says, it was 2002. I met Jeanette, then Mr. Combs. In 2001 was the World Trade Center thing. The World Trade Center thing. Then I met Mr. Combs. Combs says, or Diddy's defense says he wasn't doing candy, right? Cece says he did X in Daddy's house. Defense says, or asked, but it got worse. Cece says yes. Diddy's defense says, you authorized Mr. Freeman to seek a job for you. Cece says it was all very procedural, lawyer to lawyer. Diddy says, but you were told you couldn't be given a job in the middle of an investigation. Cece says, I don't remember that. Diddy's defense says, read this and let me know when you're done. Do you remember saying you had a biggest crush on him? Oh, wow. They trying to play in her face, yo. They trying to play in this lady face. They are literally trying to play in this lady face. He literally tried to play in that lady face. Literally tried to play in that lady face. Alrighty. Prosecution objects. 403 is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. And then judge asked Diddy's defense attorney, what's going on? Diddy's defense says state of mind. Prosecution said it's being offered for the truth. Defense says we had a stip on this. They trying to play in her face. Defense says you called him Chop for chocolate. Cece says I did. Why she called him that? Diddy's defense says you started with Def Jam, Rum DMC. Cece says I don't go back that far. I'm more Foxy Brown, Redline, Jay-Z. Defense says, so how'd you come to work for Mr. Combs? Cece says, I put my resume on Monster after the World Trade Center thing. He said, you work for me? I was like, maybe. He was acting on Broadway and Raising in the Sun. I was impressed. Diddy's defense says he had a major part. Cece says he was a star. Cece says, then I shadowed him on the Vote or Die campaign. My job was to get t-shirts on the celebrities and into the photo shoots. I called them and say Puff wanted them to come. Diddy's defense says that they came, or question they came. Cece says they did. Diddy's defense asked how long before the jury missing thing. Cece says it was about 4 months. On July 4th, he threw a white party at his home in the Hamptons that year with Vote or Die. Diddy's defense says, when did the jury missing happen? She said after the July 4th. Cece says the jewels on the stand were on loan from Jacob the jeweler. Diddy's defense says, who else got a lie detector test? Cece says Mike B, his stylist, he too had gone to street level of 1440 for manicures. The lie detector test was the next day. Diddy's defense asks, did she ever tell HR? She says no. Cece says I got fired for 3 weeks. Cece says, how did you get unfired? I went to work on his 35th birthday at Caprini to do the celebrity list. I came back. Diddy's defense says 2004 to 2006, not at all. As his personal assistant, they asked. Cece says the liaison. So she went back after she got terminated. Cece says I was making 65,000 for Combs, then 90 at Jive. Cece then asked, why'd you come back to Combs? Cece says I hadn't gotten top records for R. Kelly. Mr. Combs said he was impressed and asked me to come back for Sean John Women. Cece said I think I was a really good employee for him. Defense asked, he told you were awesome. Cece said he did not use that word. Defense asked, you work hard for him. Cece says I did. Defense asked, others worked hard too, right? Oh, goodness. Cece says not as hard as me. Cece says I did learn a lot from Mr. Combs. He broke the glass ceiling for us black people in the business world. Cece, defense attorney says, do you need a minute? Cece says, no, it's just complicated. Judge says, we'll take a break. Jury goes out. And then And then they state that the case might actually be closer to 5 weeks than 6. We're running ahead of schedule, according to the prosecution. Prosecution is running ahead of schedule. So, yeah, and then we gonna have to unpack because I don't know if y'all heard, but Q from Day 26 came out today in an interview and alleged that Dawn roofied him, gave him X allegedly. She submitted a formal statement, I believe on Instagram, and took it down. So, whole mess. Hold on, y'all. Child, it's whole mess, whole mess. Alrighty. All right, let me see if this is any more testimony. Alrighty, so then the jury comes back, they go on lunch. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to unpack that on actual TikTok. So in terms of Q and Dawn. So we'll unpack that on TikTok. Child. So CC gets back on the stand. Diddy's defense asks, when you were into the park, it was a tavern on the green. CC says we parked there. Earlier in the day in the park, we ran into Nas. Prosecution then asks, when you say he had Miss Ventura spin, who was there? Let me show you what you said. You said Lorianne Gibson was there. Cece said they misheard me. Ugh, Cece. Prosecution then asks, when did you first meet Cassie Ventura? Cece says, I met her with Ron Leslie. Diddy's defense asks, why did you not get along with Cassie sometimes? Hold on, y'all. Alexa, stop. So apparently Cece didn't get along with Cassie. Diddy's defense asked, why didn't you get along with her? Cece said in 2008, she got more of a bravado being his girlfriend the longer it lasted. She thought I was being paid to help her. Prosecution then says objection. Judge says sustain. Re-asked the question in a different way. Diddy's defense says, what did you see? Cece says she went from being a sweet model to being feisty girlfriend. Damn. Diddy's defense says, do you think she was talented? Cece says she had talent. She had talent. It was very beautiful. Diddy's defense says, but not talented. Cece said she was not. I have good taste. I mean, Cassie can hold a little 1-2 note. She can. Now she ain't no Whitney. Like she ain't no Whitney or no Mariah. That's for sure. But I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I did play. Now me and you, it went platinum in my household. Like a couple songs on her first album went kind of platinum. I can't remember all of them, but that ain't the point. Point is, she could sing a little 1-2. Like you know, yeah. She said that on the stand. That is crazy. She said she wasn't talented. Talented to me. Oh, damn. She said exactly what I just said. Cece said talented to me is Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. Literally what I just said. Cassie, she was more of a studio musician. She needed things equalized. Diddy's defense said, asked, did she perform live? Cece said a couple times, not the greatest. I'm sorry. Prosecution no. Diddy's defense asked, was she a hard worker? Cece says at times. Diddy's defense says, when wasn't she a hard worker? Cece says she preferred to be with her boyfriend. When we moved to LA after Kim had the twins 2009, as I saw her developing more of her relationship with Puff with Mr. Combs. They asked, did he support her? Cece says yes, with stylists, other musicians, all the components of making a star. They asked, the defense asked, did she get more help than others? She said, yes, young jock in the groups from Atlanta. I developed French Montana. Oh, goodness. Capricorn Clark says, I ran into Cassie. She said she had a new deal with Epic. I dressed her like David Bowie. We did a photo shoot at my house. We wrote a mini movie and shot it for the project. Defense asked, what about Official Girl? Cece says, super cute video. Diddy's defense, King of Hearts. It was fresh. Puff liked it, Cece said. Diddy's defense, Cassie had a green wig. Cece says, yes. They asked, Diddy's defense asked to admit this witness. The prosecution then says there's a ceiling issue. Defense asks, you don't remember this email? Cece says, I don't. Prosecution asks, here in 2012, you were setting up a record session for Cassie. She interjects and says Mario Winan was for the chairman. Ooh. Defense says for Mr. Combs. Cece says yes. Defense asks, when did you learn Cassie was dating Mr. Kid Cudi? Cece says fall of 2011. I picked her up there. Diddy's defense, you believe that after Thanksgiving, Miss Ventura and Kitty were what? Cece says getting to know each other. They add, Diddy's defense asks, why did you get her a burner phone at Best Buy? Cece says, I told her you cannot do this on your bad boy phone. Diddy's defense says, how did you know about burner phones? Cece says, I grew up in LA. Like, that's a damn shame. Like, Cece said, I grew up in LA. What you mean? What you mean? Like, how else would I know about burner phones? This is LA. Like, that's a damn shame. That's a damn shame. But Diddy's defense asked in December 2011, Mr. Combs was at an orphanage in Almaty. Cece said, I heard it was Russia. Diddy's defense asked, how did Mr. Combs get into your building? Cece asked, I was told the security guard got fired. What was his name? Defense asked. Cece says, some random security guard. Defense asked, what did he look like? Cece said, a black guy younger than 35. Diddy's defense asked, what was Mr. Combs doing with the gun? Cece says he had it in his hand. Defense says he wasn't pointing it at you. Cece says no. Diddy's defense says, but you told the government he pointed it at you. Cece says it says or waved it around. That's more correct. Diddy's defense asks, where did you change it to your street clothes? Cece says in my closet. Defense asks, isn't it true you went so that Mr. Combs wouldn't do something stupid? Cece says, no, I went because he said he didn't care if he didn't care. Didn't want to go. Defense asks, Defense asks, he's a jealous guy. Capricorn Clark says he has a bad temper. Diddy's defense to the Escalade. Did you pass the security guard? Cece says, I saw him in his little hut. Defense says, Mr. Combs was behind the driver with a weapon on his lap. You made a call? Defense says, not often. I'm sorry. She answers, not then. Defense says, did you look at Cudi's door to see if they can get through? Cece says, I was not really paying attention. I was in my head trying to plan my next step. I was praying that Cudi was not in there. Defense asks, did Cassie have 2 rooms? Cece says, Cudi took her to 1 room. She had another. Diddy's defense says, you are 100% that you called them and told them Puff had a weapon? She says, yes, I said it very quickly. I didn't want Puff to see me on the phone. Defense asks, did you say that Lauren London was on the phone with you and Cassie and Cudi? Oh, no. Not Lauren. Child. Did you say that Lauren London was on the phone with you and Cassie and Cudi? Cece says no, only part of the time. I wanted someone to know where I was. What? Defense asks, what did you tell her? Cece says, I'm scared of lions. Diddy's defense says, ask mountain lions. Cece says, I don't know if you know Hollywood Hills, coyotes. Maybe Lauren was on the phone. Maybe. It's such a long time ago. Defense says, you are aware that Lauren and Mr. Combs were friends for years after this? She says yes. Diddy's defense asks, then you see the Porsche coming up the hill? Cece says yes. Cuddy's in the back in the black Porsche. He stops next to us, then speeds off. We chase him. Diddy's defense says then, or asks then. Cece says he loses us. We turn away. Then we see police pass us. Diddy's defense says you go to pick Cassie and go where? Cece says the kid's Cuddy's house. The ADT was there. There was ADT there. Defense asks, then you go to Mr. Combs' house and you say you see Mr. Combs kicking Cassie there, even in the street. She says yes. This way too much. It's like, girl. They put a piece of paper in front of her and they ask her to read this out loud. Capricorn says, I wrote, she was never my friend. She wanted me gone, I realized. Hold on, wait. We skipped over some stuff. Okay. All right. Diddy's defense asks, you hung up on the fire inspector. Cece says, I did. Diddy's defense asks, when you were on vacation, it was with who? Why Clark say Rihanna? Oh, it's so many celebrities all up and through this thing. Goodness. She says Rihanna. She was on vacation with her at the time. Defense says, after you were fired, what job did you get? Cece says, I was hired by Chris Lighty to work with 50 Cent. Diddy's defense says, here you wrote to Mr. Combs, one day you'll forgive me. Anyway, be well. Cece says yes. Defense says, you wrote on February 28th, 2015, your grace period to be mad at me has surpassed the agreed time. LOL. You wrote that? She says, yes, sir. Why would she? Defense says, please read that out loud. Cece says, I wrote, she was never my friend. She wanted me gone. Girl, Cece. Cece says, I wrote, she was never my friend. She wanted me gone. I realized. Defense asked, did you think Cassie wanted you gone? So she was talking about Cassie in the note. Clark crying on the stand. Sorry, this is complicated for me. I felt that I was Puff's protector. We're not gonna judge. I'm gonna try my best not to judge and be empathetic because abuse looks like people you'll never know how you operate in that much abuse with a man with that much power. So I'm gonna remain objective. Diddy said, Diddy's defense asked, did it hurt that he would only take you back because Cassie wanted? Cece says, yes, I have no parents. My son is autistic. My stakes are higher, sir. Judge asks, how much more? Defense asks, can I talk to the government? And they do a sidebar. That is so sad. Yeah, that's so sad. That is so sad. Okay. All right, then they come back. Cece says, I felt like I was the only one gone. She was still there, and things were getting worse. I tried to keep professionalism as the goal. Diddy's defense says, you thought you could be his protector. Cece says, it was to move the ball toward the goal to inspire. Defense, Defense then says, a few more minutes and we'll get you out of here today. Cece says, thank you, sir. Defense asks, you did great work with the Cassie in 2016, 2017, right? Cece says, I believe so. Diddy's defense says Cassie had addiction problems or ass. Cece says, yes. They trying to paint this picture like she was just, no, here we go. Cece says, yes. Defense says, you made a short movie with her. Defense says, I'm sorry. Cece says, yes, it was called Love a Loser. Defense asks, you wrote to him asking for forgiveness. Cece says, I wanted my life back, my dream, my competency. Girl. Diddy's defense says, when you met with me, you wanted to work for him, right? in 2024 after all of this? You wanted to work with him last year? Girl. You wanted to work with him in 2024? Oh, yeah, I posted I was going live. You wanted to work with him in 2024. That is crazy. Bananas. Bananas. Um, she said we discussed it. Defense says no further. Uh, Prosecution then asked how much was Mr. Combs required to pay you. Prosecution. Then the judge asked her sidebar where the attorneys come up. Then it goes back. Prosecution asked what happened to the job with Chris Lighty. Cece says he passed the day before I was supposed to start. Then at Interscope, it wasn't about a job. They told me to leave Puff alone. Diddy's defense says I object. Judge sustains the offense. Cece says I was blacklisted. Diddy's defense objects again. Judge says sustained. Prosecution says, when did you return to work for Mr. Why did you return to work for Mr. Combs? CC then says, so people can see I wasn't disposable. At this level of business, he held all the power. Prosecution then asks, why did you meet them? She says, to get my life back. Prosecution asks, in the kidnapping, did Mr. Combs carry a weapon? CC says yes. And then jury gets released. That was 3 hours ago. So today was a time, y'all. Yeah, that's literally what she said. According to her, she couldn't work anywhere else. He allegedly blackballed her. So but yeah, so that was the judge dismisses after that testimony. So I guess we'll pick back up Friday. Because tomorrow we're gonna be recording the podcast, but I might unpack tomorrow. We'll see. But if not, it will make more sense probably for me to unpack probably Friday. Just because I'll be able to go back live. But we're gonna see. But all right, y'all. Be safe. Drink your water, and we're gonna unpack all of this probably Friday. So love y'all. Y'all be safe.